Good evening, everyone. We are ready to get started with our May 8th, 25 work session. Let's start with roll calls. Dr. Hooker?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Hottie Hensley, Ms. Mary P. Bagby, Ms. Linda Davis, Dr. Patricia Yeager,
Here.
Mr. Tim Denson,
Here.
Dr. Mumby Anderson,
Here.
Dr. Lakeisha Gant,
Here.
Ms. Nicole Hull, and Mr. Mark Evans.
Here.
Wonderful. Looks like we have a quorum, so we can get started with our agenda. Item 3 is the board report from President, and I've got just a few items to discuss with you guys. First, our search firm selection. Mr. Evans was kind enough to organize with GSBA for them to come to our next work session to do a presentation on the services that they offer for searching for the next superintendent. We can table our conversations about next steps until that presentation, and then ask our questions to GSBA, and then have a conversation, of course, with the public here in front of the public about what we want our next steps to look like, if we want to go with GSBA, or if we want to open up an RFP, or what we want to do. So that will be on June's work session. If you remember, we have policy FDC, facility renaming, still in draft mode. When we had our March retreat, there was a discussion had about what changes we would like to see made to that policy, but there was no movement forward since then. So I'm bringing that back to the board to see what exactly we want to do to make sure that we can move that policy forward. Do we want to keep it as it is and then have a vote? Do we want to form an ad hoc committee to take a look at it? And if we do an ad hoc committee, who would the members of that committee be? And what would be the timeline for bringing a draft forward to the board? So I'm going to open up the floor for any comments on how you all would like to see this next part of the process go. Or if you're fine with the way the policy is written, maybe some hearts and minds have changed. Anyone? Mr. Evans? Oh, Ms. Davis?
I'm really good about having a little bit more discussion about this with people that have already kind of run into not being able to understand it and implement it in their circles. So I would love for us to have that ad hoc committee.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I agree with Ms. Davis. I think the ad hoc committee would be a good idea. That way we can come up with a really concrete plan that makes it clear to the public what we're trying to do.
Okay. All right, so I've got a couple of members who are happy to move forward with an ad hoc committee, but we do need all of us to sort of be on the same page with that. I'm seeing hands up. Dr. Gant?
I probably sound like a broken record, but I will support, majority of the board. I feel that we've been down a similar route, not with an ad hoc committee, but with just sort of the idea of figuring out how we acknowledge, people who have contributed significantly. I do recognize that there are some maybe some specific changes that should be made. I guess what my fear, or my concern, not fear, my concern is that this came up because of general concerns, and it had not come up before. I know we're in a different time with a different board and different people, but I still can't, help but have concerns about that. Like, why now do we need an ad hoc committee? Is it because it was a tough decision? It's always going to be a tough decision. And how are we sure that that ad hoc committee, I know it'll have to come back before the board, But just being sure that we're not putting ourselves in a place where we are making it close to impossible to move forward with renaming facilities or spaces when it has not been a problem before. I'm not aware of any other problems that have occurred when the Nunnallys, the space was renamed, when Deacon Payne, when it was renamed, all the way back to Central with their cafeteria area, with Stroud. And so I welcome changes, but that would be my concern. But I do respect, my colleagues on the board, and, should it move forward to an ad hoc committee, we'll look forward to, the product of that committee.
Okay, it seems as though there are at least four members of this current board that are okay moving forward with an ad hoc committee. Dr. Yeager?
I was just going to say the revised version of the policy seems very convoluted and complex.
Right.
And so if that's what we have to kind of work on, then an ad hoc committee makes sense. If people are not willing to just go back to the old original policy, then definitely an ad hoc committee needs to be, because that one is just so complicated and not relevant in many cases to naming a ball field, for example. So, yeah, so I would support a committee to work on that draft.
Okay. So there does seem to be a consensus for forming an ad hoc committee, and I do agree with that, and so I would also support an ad hoc committee, and that's simply because of what Dr. Yeager said. The current draft that we are looking at, we had a lot of debate and questions around that, and so it just kind of seems like that's where the conversation stalled. So an ad hoc committee may help to move that conversation forward and then bring it back to the board for further discussion. Are there any volunteers for this ad hoc committee? Dr. Yeager, Ms. Davis, and Mr. Evans. Okay, so we've got 3 members of an ad hoc committee for policy FDC. If you could work on it and bring it back to the board, I think August is reasonable. Would that be okay? That gives about 3 months? Okay. All right, so we will, and that kind of aligns with the beginning of the school year, so it can just be the thing that we're doing moving forward. Okay, so that's the decision for that. And then lastly, the millage rate hearings. Ms. Palmer sent a survey out, and I think as of now, we've got 5 members who responded to that survey. And do we have quorum for all 3 of those meetings at this point?
Yes, ma'am. There are 5 for each of those meetings.
Okay, so the millage rate hearing meetings have then now been confirmed. Like that's when we will have our millage rate hearings, and that's June 2nd, June 3rd, and June 11th at 6 p.m. Now, if your attendance changes, if your availability changes, please, 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 please let us know in advance, because we are teeter-tottering on not having a quorum for all 3 of those meetings. Okay. That's all that I have for the president's report. Now we will move forward. Oh, Mr. Evans, did you have anything?
If you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
Very quickly, this past week, I went to the AI conference, the Artificial Intelligence Conference that GSBA sponsored. And it was really exciting to see some of the things that people are using this for. For instance, I listened to this one speaker who actually put their budget in and ran scenarios using ChatGPT to look and see. So, let's say that we wanted to change the millage rate. How would that affect action? And he was able to granulate it down to that he could actually see how would it affect classroom learning by these different queries. It was really interesting to see. There are lots of really good things, but the one thing that really came out of it was that we're already a little behind with AI policy. Even if we have one, it's probably outdated, and so we need to really start thinking about that and looking towards that, because it's going to become more and more of prevalence in our society. And that it's a technology that we should be using and not afraid of was also a big theme in there, because that is going to be the world of work that the children that we're educating now are going to be living in. And we need to get them comfortable with that technology, and that means that it has to start with us, the adults in the room. So it was a very good conference. Again, thank you for sending me. I do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of you in June at the GSBA meeting down in Savannah. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I hope you all have a great time at GSBA. I always have a work conflict, so I've only made one meeting ever in my tenure, so have fun, y'all. Okay, we are now at item 4, and that is our policy reviews. So we've got some first reads and then a couple of approvals that we can move forward to our regular board meeting. Policy BCBF, Rules of Order, first read. Are there any thoughts on that policy initially? Nope. Okay. Now we are at policy BC, board meetings. We're good? Okay, and hopefully this change will help Ms. Palmer in the agenda building process and all of that. So I'm glad that this policy is moving forward. Thank you all. Policy CD, line and staff relations. Okay. And now we are looking at the approval of 2 policies, so moving them forward. Policy BCBI, public participation in board meetings. If you remember, this is largely due to a lawsuit that was won, and now we have to change the language of our.
And I'm sorry, since I missed last month's meeting, the policy will now be that people can sign up right up until 7 o'clock?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And on a sign-up sheet?
Is it up until 7 o'clock? I can't remember exactly, or did we stop it
It
at?
says start of the meeting.
Okay.
The start of the meeting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And they can still also call in and email Ms. Palmer, but it does help her with how she kind of gathers the names. All right. And now we are at policy IG, guidance and counseling programs. Yes, Dr. Yeager?
So I think it's the 6th paragraph that starts with the counseling program. It doesn't seem like a complete sentence, and I'm not sure where the punctuation might be, so I'm just trying to. Is there a period?
After activities, you mean?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, if it's the counseling program being an activity support, building a positive school culture and climate, so there's like a verb, are developmentally and age appropriate, and are to be provided school-wide to ensure equity of access.
Period.
Period, maybe? And then counselors provide and support activity. I'm not sure where that, it just doesn't seem like it's a complete sentence. So, minor, but I'm a nerd, so apologies.
No, thank you for pointing that out.
I think the point of the paragraph is fine, it's just that.
The wording is a little bit weird. Is there a chance of having this correction perhaps at our board meeting, and then we can review it and then decide if we want to move forward with a vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And now we are at F, future policies for review from the board. So other than FDC, are there other policies that we would like for the district to consider? Yes, Mr. Denson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was, because of a business item we have coming up later on, I was looking into our school nutrition policy and looking up some of the other standards across the state and other places in the country too. And I would love if we could visit the board policy EEE that deals with our nutrition guidelines and nutrition education for our schools.
All right, so could you repeat that policy B?
Triple E, EEE.
Oh, policy EEE, school nutrition. And is there something specific that you'd like to point to the district to kind of work on, or are you just generally saying it needs to be reviewed?
Two things. Maybe one, just to bolster some of our nutrition guidelines. I have gotten some comments from parents, and also have witnessed myself with my own child, of quite a bit of processed foods being used in our lunches and snacks. And then also, there is part of the policy touches on the, let me see, where was that? The fundraising and marketing and such that can happen with different restaurants and such at schools. And I'm not sure if that needs to be strengthened or if we're adhering to that. I've definitely had a lot of things sent home to me for a lot of fast food, and that's not necessarily the most healthy food options. That doesn't seem like it's necessarily adhering to this policy either. So maybe just revisit that and maybe possibly bolster it.
So you're referring to like the percentage nights and all of that kind of stuff?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the marketing, such as food and beverage advertised and things that are sent home and distributed on school campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that is noted, and we will, at our next agenda setting meeting, we'll talk about whether it's ready to get added to the agenda or if the district needs more time to review before the June meeting. It just seems like a meaty policy to be ready in 1 month, but we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
just for something for us, the future policy for review.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, others? Yes, Dr. Yeager?
So when I was looking at FDC, I noticed there's 3 other policies sitting in draft space that are dated from August 2024. So I'm just curious if we needed to bring those forward at some point. It's IKC, Teaching About Religion, JCAC, Sexual Harassment of Students, and GAEB, Sexual Harassment of Employees. Looks like she was working on them in August of last year. And they're GAEB, Sexual Harassment of Employees. And I'm not sure if we stalled her out because we didn't like what she was doing, or if there was a reason why they might just need to be moved out of Netherland.
Yeah, I mean, I have no memory of us discussing any of those policies at a board
Okay.
meeting, so it might be that she pulled them to review and just never placed them
Okay.
back.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
these 2 sexual harassment policies, I feel pretty sure were pulled because they were written in response to the new regulations, which were immediately stayed by a lawsuit and remain stayed right now. I think Mr. Evans was involved in keeping up with some of that.
okay. Okay, thank you for that, that's helpful. So yeah, what we can do is just, Ms. Palmer, if we'll remember to ask Ms. Bonez of the status of those, and thank you for bringing that to the board's attention. Others? Okay, all right, so we've got our marching orders, FDC, EEE. Item 5. If you remember last meeting, we had a presentation on the student code of conduct, had some discussion, some questions, concerns. Ms. Barbizon asked for specifics in our questions documents of what we would like to see amended to the code of conduct before moving forward with a vote. I know I placed a few things in there, some other members may have, so perhaps we can have a conversation with Ms. Barbizon. Thank you.
There we go. Ms. Palmer also took some notes of the points that were made verbally, the commentary from the board. So we attempted to also add some additional information into this slide deck to address those things that were mentioned last time as well. In addition, last month, the presentation and the slides really just contained information about the Code of Conduct updates. Mr. Cobb, the Director of Behavior Support and Discipline, he and I both discussed that we felt like certainly the Code of Conduct is one piece, but perhaps it would be helpful to include some additional context in the presentation for everyone to see regarding some behavior and discipline data as it stands. And this is not a full and comprehensive presentation on all of the work and the behavior support and discipline that we are doing in CCSD, but we did hope to at least address some of the commentary that was given last time in an attempt to answer some questions. And I'm also happy to elaborate on all of this. So here's just a couple of data snapshots that you have added to the slides. This is one in particular for this school year, and of course we're not at the conclusion of this school year yet. We still have additional days of student attendance that will be factored in, but you can see just a couple of pieces around some of this data. We've got behavior incidents by school year compared to last year, OSS, dates, and ISS, days of ISS by year, all of which we've seen a decrease in. We also included information about our school climate data. I just included the press release, but we did see a substantial gain in the DOE STAR climate ratings across the board with our schools, almost across the board from our schools. Not every single school had an increase, but we did have substantial increases across the district. So we were very proud of that work, and for those STAR climate ratings, that factors in attendance, discipline, the previous health survey data results, but we do feel like the comprehensive work that we're putting into school climate, very much so around behavior support and discipline, we are seeing some of the impact there. And then there were a couple of items, I think, in the questions document about that specifically. I'll pause for just a second to see if there's any questions about these couple of slides before I go to the progressive discipline information.
Any questions? Looks like no.
Okay. I know last time there was much discussion around and questions about the Spotlight system that is built into our Infinite Campus student information system. This is the information directly from the Code of Conduct that explains what Spotlight is exactly. So we just wanted to make sure, because that was a comment about making sure that it was well explained exactly what that tool was and what it was intended to do. This is, again, just the excerpt from the Code of Conduct on page 8. And then this is just an elaboration to answer some of the questions that came up last time about what Spotlight is used to do. One thing that we really wanted to highlight was that we utilize it to support students, to help develop along the lines of the MTSS process, Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention plans. It does not, any behavioral incidents that are entered in do not become a part of the student's cumulative records, like state reportable incidents. So I hope that some of these points provide some clarity, but I know there were a lot of questions about the Spotlight system last time that we utilize in our Infinite Campus system as a way of tracking data. I do want to also make note that we also utilize Spotlight to acknowledge positive behaviors. This is just Coyle Middle School as just a snapshot, and you can see the positive versus the minor events, and you can see specifically the positives that they acknowledge students for. So that's really the heart of our PBIS work, is pointing out positive behaviors to help reduce overall negative behaviors, and then ensuring that when we are trying to extinguish behaviors that are not aligned with PBIS expectations, that we're taking an intervention and teaching-based approach. And again, a lot of that work, as we talked about last time, is not captured in the Code of Conduct exclusively, But there is so much more to the work that we do with behavior support and discipline. We also elaborated a bit more on the progressive discipline practices in CCSD. This is a question that came up last time, and there was a question in the document about this as well. We do review progressive discipline approaches on page 4, starting in page 4 in the Student Code of Conduct, included information on exactly what is expressed to parents there, what is the policy on progressive discipline. This is also just to note something that the state requires, that we communicate progressive discipline to parents in our Student Code of Conduct. So I also included some of our progressive discipline practices that include our district-wide restorative practices training. We are in year 2 of our work with the Georgia Conflict Center. All of our schools have had training on restorative practices with the goal of every school having an operational restorative practices team to utilize restorative practices as an alternative to exclusionary discipline, as well as a community building practice, really implementing tiers of restorative practices aligned with creating a supportive climate and culture. Dr. Welch, he's here tonight. We've also been continuing a partnership in working with him. He's been working specifically with middle schools around some methodologies for reducing exclusionary practices. One of the things that we will be implementing next year is providing all of our secondary schools with base curriculum, and this is just an intervention curriculum that can be utilized as an alternative to in-school suspension. So we're actively doing things to provide schools with coaching and supports to utilize practices that are less punitive, less exclusionary. That's a very important priority for us, but the code of conduct still has to communicate to the community, to parents, to stakeholders, and to students, those state reportable actions, progressive discipline, et cetera. I also just wanted to include this as a snapshot because one of the things that did come up last time was just an example of like behavior flow charts, how progressive practices work in action. That was a comment that was made. This is just one example, but the state requires that schools have a behavior flow chart. This is Whitehead Road's behavior flow chart, and you could just see the progression of classroom managed versus office managed. One of the things that I know Mr. Cobb and I wanted to make sure was understood with the use of Spotlight is one thing he works with administrators on is when you look at those columns of classroom managed versus office managed incidents, one of the things that we try to emphasize is providing behavior intervention and support at lower levels, earlier intervention, so events don't escalate into bigger situations, keeping things away from being office managed. That's a part of our Spotlight system, is trying to be able to prevent, behaviors that are subjective from being an office managed behavior, from being something that has administrator involvement. How can we work in a restorative manner to keep things contained at the classroom level, to de-escalate the situation and support the student socially and emotionally to return to being engaged in instruction. So these systems are all things that we've been implementing. All of our schools have DOE recognized PBIS systems in place. This is a big part of our work with MTSS, PBIS, and behavior support and discipline, is to ensure we have these systems and that we're helping support school teams, teachers, administrators in fidelity of practice with this work. The reality is that there's still a lot that has to be done around the coaching piece because we have to ensure that we're equipping classroom teachers with tools to de-escalate and provide behavior intervention support in the moment when things happen and to prevent things from escalating to a higher level of administrator involvement and higher levels of disciplinary action. This information is the same. We did get a couple of additional comments. We did get a couple of additional comments, and those are included in the slide deck version of the feedback. There were 27 responses before the April BOE meeting, and I believe there were maybe 5 to 7 additional responses. So you can see the additional pieces that were included. But again, I think one of the things that we notice with some of the feedback that we get sometimes is that there's a push-pull around, I guess, a desire for more consequences for behavior. And one of the things that we've done, especially in partnering with Dr. Welch, is to try to really get at the root of understanding behavior, and that consequences and being more punitive or exclusionary will not necessarily extinguish the behavior or stop the behavior, that we want to have an intervention-focused approach. So this is something, again, that we continue to do this work on, but that is not necessarily all contained within the student code of conduct. Again, we just wanted to add some of the additional context so that we could address some of the comments and feedback from last time. And then I also, we worked to include, I think it was a request that was given verbally about wanting to see codes of conduct and what other local school districts do. So we just included all of the code of conduct samples for this school year from all of our RESA school districts so that you can take a look and reference those. You'll see that some districts opt to put it as a very brief part of policy. Many of them embed it in a student handbook. And then us and 1 or 2 other districts actually have a full separate student code of conduct document. And those are all the updates I have with that, with the slides.
Thank you. Other questions? Comments, thoughts? Dr. Gant.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions that sort of were sparked, like as you were going through this. Just to clarify with the spotlight data, darn it, there was a slide that explained the spotlight. Oh, okay, I think it was
I can go to it.
slide 7, where it says that we use this system in Infinite Campus to document minor infractions. And then maybe a couple of slides up, you know, we see the decrease as far as like our, I think it's ISS days. Do the spotlight infractions, are they represented in this data or any of the like behavior reports?
No, and thank you. That's such a great question because that is something that we do want to make sure that everyone understands the difference between a spotlight infraction or a minor infraction. And when you look at the code of conduct document, that's why we have the minor versus the code of conduct offenses. So those minors are really expected to all be contained within the classroom. So those are really more data documentation pieces. That's also something the state does require that districts have as a part of having PBIS plans. Previously, we used a system called SWIS, which is a system supported by the University of Oregon. We switched to Spotlight just because it could be contained within campus and integrated with the campus data, meaning a student would automatically be populated into the system when they enrolled versus having it in a separate system and having to upload data externally. But when a minor incident is entered, and I know it's hard to see, or at least it's hard for me to see, but you can see we also ask that schools put in their PBIS behavior flow chart for teachers. At what point do you even enter in a data point in Spotlight? And you can see that's the third step. So there is an expectation for schools that there's multiple attempts to de-escalate and intervene before a behavior is even documented. But then once it's documented, we are able to use that data to develop behavior intervention plans. We're also able to really look at data to identify if there's teachers that may need more support, because there's a lot of data that comes from that where we can see, okay, there's a lot of entries for third grade for disruptive behavior. Let's drill down as a team and look at that and understand better what's happening and what's going on in these classrooms. And that's the work of the PBIS team, the administrators, the MTSS team. So that is essentially the purpose of Spotlight, is to provide that data to identify where we do need more support. It's not meant to be a way of accumulating punishments against a student and or accumulating punishments that would lead into a larger state reportable consequence. That data does not get reported to the state at all.
Yes, Ms. Bagby?
I have a question about the special ed and the IEP meetings and the funding. Is it special funding for special ed and the children that have labeled, that might not be the right word, but that's the word that's coming to mind right now, labeled ADD and things of that nature? Do we get special financing for those particular children?
Not related to behavior support and discipline. There's no funding that's tied directly to like a disability and behavior support and discipline specifically for that student.
We don't get extra funding for?
The funding for students with disabilities that's in a separate department, and that has to do with just their overall services that they receive. It's not specific to the code of conduct or behavior support and discipline in particular. Now, in their IEPs, they may receive specific services as it relates to behavior support, and that would be a part of their overall IEP services.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Going to circle back to Dr. Gant, because your mic is still on. So you had another question?
Actually, I did, but I'm happy to wait on other people as well.
Yeah, I didn't see any other hands or anything, so I think it's Ms. Davis?
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for this paragraph or two about the expected behavior. Again, I'm always going to be looking for more along that line that introduces our children very early on to, how do we behave in school so that when we get to high school or middle school where it gets more serious, that they're not surprised. So thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Let me circle back to Dr. Gant and then come back to you, Ms. Bagby, since I think that's the order that we're in right now.
Ms. Gant?
Yes, Dr. Gant, and then I'll come back to you, Ms. Bagby.
Yes, let's see, with so I do appreciate like the thorough approach and the code of conduct. I know that's been something like each year we've wanted to have feedback on. With like the numbers that we have, and then I know we can access the numbers, I think in like my chart, no, I'm sorry, not my chart.
Not there, no.
What is it, school charts?
Are you talking about in Mr. Barleman's dashboard?
Yes.
The Analytics
Yes.
dashboard? Yes, absolutely.
And that just pulls from campus, not Spotlight.
That's correct, yes.
But based on like the trends that we're seeing and like from what I can gather from the code of conduct each year, I guess if I had to pinpoint a philosophy, it would maybe be a restorative philosophy.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to ask, where can we find a list of like we used to have like a professional, like a professional development, I don't know, like catalog or what have you, that dealt specifically, with a variety of different things, from instruction to, curriculum to behaviors, and there were a variety of options available. Where does that exist? And if so, what are the things like the interventions and from a professional development perspective we're doing to like help equip teachers, particularly with those classroom related matters that happen that we may not see, that may be inside of Spotlight, but then that could very well lead to other infractions?
That's kind of it's a multi-layered question. As far as the types of professional learning we're providing, and access to that information, we have records of all the different PLs we've provided. We have, of course, started with a new electronic PL system that has records around that as far as like what is provided. I would also say it's a multitude of approaches. I don't think we're ever going to have, one thing that will address behavior at the classroom level. And I'm sure as all of you engage with your communities, you hear from teachers that will continue to state that behavior in the school is a concern, school safety is a concern. So it's always going to be something that is, we're working very hard to address and improve. As far as what we provide to teachers, I would say it's not just the restorative practices, and that's still ongoing, and we've custom designed that professional learning with the Georgia Conflict Center specifically. We really wanted to prioritize in-person training, but our goal is also to ensure that we establish those teams so that they can work at the school level to integrate their social emotional learning curriculum, which is Leader in Me, their PBIS, along with the restorative work. And then, of course, some of that also has to do with, again, the fidelity of implementation of PBIS, having effective systems in place. But then we do have to work with teachers specifically to teach strategies around de-escalation and finding just least restrictive ways, if you will, for addressing behavior, using things like, and you can even see how that's identified even on this particular flow chart. I mean, working with teachers on using things like eye contact and proximity or just other nonverbal cues to help address behavior. And part of that goes with what Ms. Davis was mentioning, is teaching what the expectations are, modeling those, highlighting positive behavior, all of those practices at the classroom level and at the school level.
Dr. Gant, I also want to address that what you're talking about is My Learning Plan. That's what we used to have, where you could go in and select courses that were being offered by different people at the district level or school specific. We are actually going back to that now. And so we do have that platform back in place. Dr. Peacock has been in charge of creating that. And what we are in the midst of doing, that is actually the platform we're going to be using moving forward, so that people on Tessa's team and on other teams that have professional learning options that schools may choose, that teachers may choose, because this allows you also to differentiate based upon the individual needs. Then people can select various professional learning opportunities that are offered. They're also going to have a menu that principals may select from if they know that they would like for someone to come in to work on a specific thing with either a small group of teachers or their whole school. And so that will be available. We've actually started using it this year, but we have not built out the catalog for this year, but the catalog is being built now for next year. There will also be some self-paced courses where people are recording so that individuals can go in and actually view and take part in a self-paced course whenever.
Thank you. Yeah, that is, I couldn't recall the name of it, but yeah, just figuring out what do we do at tier one, what are we, like, what are our teachers receiving before someone else has to step in or before they have to do something. So just being sure that, that type of professional development is available, but I just couldn't think of the name of it, so.
Yes, well, and I just want to state too that, I think it's also really important that we work with our schools on, philosophies around behavior support and discipline. Because we have discipline because we have to get at the root too of, if someone genuinely believes that exclusionary consequences are the only way for the student to improve behavior, no amount of coaching on Tier 1 interventions is going to really change that level of practice, right? So we also think it's really important to make sure that we work on a deeper level to make sure that we are providing PL around understanding what's going to change behavior. And that goes with our mental health specialists and all those other professionals that go out and provide more education around trauma-informed practices and all of those things. Like we need those layers as well to really start to see changing climate and culture in our schools.
I'm going to come back to you, Mrs. Bagby.
Yes, ma'am. On page 18 of this, the code of conduct, and it talks about the severity level 3. Well, it talks about different severity levels. So on these severity levels, does the principal and the teachers have discretion as to how they handle them, or is it they have to go by what's here? Like if a person has possession of a weapon with intent to use and cause harm, can the principal and the teachers waive that rule?
No, and those severity levels are also set by the state, and they're supposed to follow those and utilize the due process protocols to determine what the assignment of severity level would be for an incident. Some of them are pretty cut and dry. Some of them certainly may require more investigation into the situation or incident.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, are there other questions? Ms. Barbizon, thank you so much for that presentation. Well, I think the conversation now is, are we ready to move the code of conduct to board meeting for a vote for approval, or are we still harboring some thoughts on amendments to the current version? Ms. Davis?
I don't really have any thoughts on amending the current version. It's 71 pages long, so are we still distributing this to every student at the beginning of the school year? Or is it just the high school students that get this? And what do we do with those 71 pages?
The code of conduct is available electronically, so what we distribute to every student, K through 12, is a card that has a QR code where parents can access it electronically, but we also have the printed versions, a limited number available in schools, and let parents know that if they would like a printed version, then they may get that from their school front office.
Are they having to pay for that?
No.
What's our cost for producing it?
Ooh, I don't know the exact cost.
Thank you.
Somebody is buzzing. There's some feedback happening. Oh, Ms. Bagby, do you mind turning off your mic when you're not using it? I think there's some feedback coming off of your mic.
I had a question.
Oh, okay. Yes, Ms. Bagby.
So are the parents required to sign off on these? And I'm asking because one parent told me that she didn't read the code of conduct until her son had graduated. So I want to know, do they have to sign off saying that they have acknowledged the student code of conduct, the parent, that they have read it?
Yes, they do.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay. Okay. So what I heard one member say that she still wishes to see some further changes. Is that the will of the board, or are other members feeling comfortable moving it forward? I'd like to just go with the will of the board. Forward, 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 not forward, Ms. Bagby? Not forward? Gotcha, okay. Mr. Evans? Okay, so it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members who are okay moving forward, 2 who have reservations. That does appear to be a yes swinging vote, so I'm going to recommend that we go ahead and place it on the board agenda for a vote tonight. Dr. Gant?
And I just wanted to note for the record, yeah, I think we can move it forward. I do think our code of conduct is a bit more comprehensive than many when you look across the state. I mean, I think where maybe our work is, however, is just being sure that we're intervening at a variety of different places. And that parents know, I know that they have to sign off, but I don't know if it needs to be like a class that, I mean, and it's hard, I mean, it's hard to understand, but literally like giving an overview of what these types of things mean, especially those hard-hitting things. And then also like just sort of beefing up like how we actually, support our teachers with professional development. And I'm not sure that I've gotten the impression that there's a connection between all of the student support professionals, so that when a student violates the code of conduct or maybe even violates classroom rules, that there's a general protocol or approach that will be taken, other than like redirection, maybe a parent phone call to parent, or things like that. But beyond that, when it calls for a little bit more and starts to move out of tier 1, how do these individuals work together? Like what the role of our behavior specialist is, what the role of the social worker is, what the role of the counselor is, even the school psychologist, and then the mental health professional. I haven't gotten that sense based on the past several years of like things once they get to tier 4. And beyond. And so I'm hopeful that as we, continue working on the code of conduct, I really appreciate the work that Dr. Hooker and his team have done on this and continue to do on it. I'm really hoping that we, that document is like our philosophy, and this is what we want to do, and these are some things that we have to do. So how do we still help students be successful with all of the resources that we do have? And I think for me, that's the piece that's missing, but I don't know that it'll be addressed by like holding the code of conduct back.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for those comments. Okay. Yes, so we are going to go ahead and move this item forward and just see how a vote lands at the regular meeting. And that will then push us over to item 6, financial items. So we've got the FY26 tentative budget and tentative millage rate. Mr. Greiner?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
for the sake of time, can we have Mr. Greiner do his presentation at the board, because we have a discipline hearing that may take some time, and he can present at the board meeting, if
Okay.
that's in agreement with the board members.
Yeah, are you guys okay with that? Perfect. All right, you're off the coals for now. All right, item 7 now is the business items for discussion for consent agenda. So once again, I'll just name them, and then please raise your hand high and speak up, like really well, if you have reservations and would like it pulled, and then we can open the floor for discussion. Item A, April 17th work session and board meeting minutes, and April 22nd called meeting minutes.
Here?
Okay, okay. Well, if you have reservations.
No.
Say, I was not clear. If you have reservations and want it pulled, then raise your hand and say hi, and say no.
You know I'm slow.
And then we'll open the floor for discussion. Okay, so that one's good. Awesome. Item B, high school world history textbook adoption. Looks good. Item C, modular building setup rental for Gaines Elementary remodel. Looks good. Item D, modular building for Gaines electrical service. All right. Item E, 2526 Head Start, Early Head Start Continuation Grant Application Review and Approve Intent to Apply. Okay. Ms.
I'm
Ms.
sorry, I did not get a chance to read this, so I'll probably have to ask some questions later. But is this just, it says continuation grant, what changes in what we're proposing to do and what we're doing now? And is there a cost involved? Are we doing cost sharing in this application, or what's going to happen as a result of this?
Would someone from Head Start, Early Head Start like to
Yes, Ms.
come?
Moon will answer that question.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Moon.
Okay. It's working. There are no major changes. It's the same amount of funding as we received in our last reapplication. Head Start is funded on a 5-year cycle, and this is the application for year 3 of 5.
Okay.
So I guess her second question was, are there any major changes to this grant from last year?
No.
Outside, okay. So this is a continuation of a grant that was already approved for 5 years, is what they're saying. They have to apply every year to continue the
Okay, and
grant.
so again, we don't have any additional cost involved with this from the school board's perspective, or is it purely just a grant, continued funding, no impact on operations? Kids are going to still be served? I'm happy. Thank you.
Same number of children served, same locations.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. Okay, so we're good with keeping that on the consent agenda, Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Okay. F, SY, school year, school nutrition contract renewals. Okay. Cafetorium, AV refresh. Okay. Ms. Davis, your light is on. Did you have a question? Okay. Oh, that's okay. Just making sure. All right.
I'm sorry, I do feel very guilty. I didn't get to read everything this time. It was finals week for me, so sorry about that.
We understand. It's been a busy week. Item H, field trips. And item I, video surveillance system upgrades. All right, so it looks like we've got all items on the consent.
Question on I.
Oh, yes, Mr. Evans, question?
Is, Dr. Eskew, is this what we talked about last time, this video surveillance, or is this new?
I believe it's the same program that we spoke about.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yep. And Chief Reed could speak in detail as well. Is Chief Reed here?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, so to answer your question, this is really a continue. I'm going to call maybe a year and a half ago, we upgraded the elementary, all 14 of them, because their servers are reaching the end of life, what they call. When we get notification from the server that your system has reached end of life, that means they don't support it anymore.
Okay.
So they give you a little time to start bringing in new servers. And then these 6 schools here have reached that end of life, and they're already just dropping off, the cameras going down, and we're unable to service them, so we have to get a new server to just keep them up and running. And like I said, it's just a continuation from the year and a half.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that we were talking about the same thing from last time. That's all.
Yes, yes.
That's all. We're good. I'm for it. So yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
All right, so we've got all of our items on the consent agenda, and we are now at item 8, personnel action. approval at the board meeting. Have you all had an opportunity to approve the contracts and the personnel list? Okay, so we are good with moving that forward for a vote at the board meeting? Perfect. Okay, so now we are, oh, and also the appointment of the interim superintendent and approval of the contract. That's also on our personnel list. Okay, so we're good. Okay. And then now we are at item 9, to review an appeal from a student disciplinary tribunal for use, or use one of these, I don't know, just the first part? Okay. So now we're ready to go into executive session to review an appeal for a student disciplinary tribunal. I need a motion to go to executive session.
I move we go into executive session as described.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager, seconded by Mr. Evans, and we are adjourned for executive session. Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience as we came in and got settled in. We had an executive session right before this meeting, so we appreciate your patience. And we are now ready to get started with our May 8th board meeting. If Dr. Hooker could start with roll call.
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Heidi Hensley, Ms. Mary P. Bagby, Ms. Linda Davis,
Here.
Dr. Patricia Yeager, Mr. Tim Denton,
Here.
Dr. Mumby Anderson,
Here.
Dr. Lakeisha Gant,
Here.
Ms. Nicole Hull, and Mr. Mark Evans.
Here, and let the record reflow that Ms. Hensley is on the phone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Heidi Hensley.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a quorum and we can move forward with our agenda. Next up is item 3, silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance. We'll start with the silent meditation, and then when we begin the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag is to the right of the stage here. Okay, now it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and now we will move on to item 4, and that's our awards and recognitions. Dr. Moore, take it over.
Thank you very much. Dr. Anderson, Dr. Hooker, good evening, board members. As always, at the end of the school year in May, we have many recognitions, as you can see from our audience, so we'll go ahead and get started. First, we'd like to recognize our Employee of the Month for May. And at this time, I'll ask Dr. Hooker to come up. And if our Employee of the Month is Lasagna Hunt, Campus Security Officer at Cedar Shoals High School, will come up, we'll get started. Officer Hunt is finishing up her second year at Cedar Shoals and previously spent time working at Barrow Elementary School for the district. For those of you who have visited Cedar Shoals in the last couple of years, by now you know that Officer Hunt is the first person you see when you enter the front gate. And everyone who visits can agree that she leaves you with a terrific first impression of that school community, always waving and smiling and welcoming you. She was nominated by a parent who noted that Officer Hunt greets everyone with enthusiasm and love as you turn into Cedar Shoals. And sometimes music coming from her portable speaker propped up on the brick wall of the driveway entrance. The parent wrote, "She is always so uplifting and positive. I have seen her stop students, have conversations with them where she is an active listener, and before they go their opposite ways, she gives the student a big smile and a strong hug. She is the energetic, positive light that the community of Cedar Shoals needs and gets. She is the most deserving of recognition and love." Cedar Shoals Principal Dr. Makiba Clark, who is finishing up her first year at the school, can also attest to this. She writes, "Officer Hunt is the ray of sunshine that greets us each morning at Cedar. Her warm smile, kind spirit, and positive energy set the tone for the day." You can cry if you want to, it's okay. She has a way of making everyone who passes through the front gate feel welcome. Whether it's a cheerful good morning, her dancing, or a gentle word of encouragement, Ms. Hunt has a way of lifting everyone's spirit. Cedar is truly brighter because of her. Please join me in congratulating our Employee of the Month, Lasagna Hunt. Now, I'm going to ask the board to wait right there. If you have anybody here with you, anybody from Cedar Shoals or family members, please come on up so we can get a picture. Yes, yes. You can have anybody you want come up. Yes. This is your time. And while they're coming, I want to tell you that bag is full of gifts for you. Have fun unpacking it. We'd like to thank the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce and local businesses for continuing to support this monthly Employee of the Month gift bag. We'd also like to thank the members of our community who have submitted more than 300 nominations of more than 250 employees this school year. It was nearly impossible to be able to only give 9 awards to that group. But we look forward to resuming the program in August when we open up nominations for September Employee of the Month. Get in there, Chief Reed. Here you go, look over there, we go. There you go. Okay, now, can everybody see Scott? All right. You need a box? Dr. Hooker, come over in here and get between Dr. Clark and Ms. Hunt. There we go. All right, now everybody look this way. Congratulations, and thank you for all you do. I'm going to say, Ms. Hunt, as a proud resident of the East Side, you are the pride of the East Side tonight. Here. Next tonight, we want to be able to acknowledge a group of students who placed in the state National History Day competition last month. National History Day is a nationwide nonprofit organization that operates an annual contest designed to engage students and enhance their research, literacy, and critical thinking skills through the discipline of history. As part of the contest, students select a topic, decide whether to work individually or in a group, conduct research, analyze their findings, develop a thesis, and submit an entry in one of 5 categories. Students then present their project and defend their thesis before a panel of judges. This year, a record 47 CCSD students from our 4 middle schools, as well as Cedar Shoals High School, advanced to the state competition. And we had 4 students who placed there. You may clap, that's wonderful, yeah. I don't think that any of these students were able to be here tonight. Spring is a busy time, but if I have overlooked them, I ask them to come up as I say their names. We wanted to acknowledge them, however, publicly for this amazing achievement. So congratulations to Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School 8th grader Charlie Crawford, who won first place in the Junior Individual Website category. Charlie was unable to join us tonight because he is on a performing arts trip in Florida. Poor Charlie. And now he will represent CCSD in the national competition in Washington, D.C. in June, marking the 2nd year in a row that BHL will be sending a project to nationals. And I believe that loud applause came from Dr. Turman, our principal at BHL. You should be very proud. In addition, Cedar Shoals High School sophomores Savannah Rawls, Saida Arnold, and Caitlin Smith placed 3rd in the senior group documentary division and will be alternates in the national competition. And I know I saw, yes, please go on up. Stand right here in the middle. And look at Mr. Thompson. Perfect. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all of our students on a job well done, and special thanks to all of the educators who help the students access college-level work and practice important life skills and think critically about the world that they live in. We're excited to see this program continue to grow. Next tonight, we'd like to recognize a group of students who placed in the Georgia Science and Engineering Fair, which was also held last month. Out of the 21 CCSD middle school students who qualified for the fair, 10 walked away with honors. If you're here, please come up when I call your name. This group was led by Jonah Toon of Clark Middle School, who received first honors, meaning his project ranked at or above the 90th percentile of all projects. Jonah's project, which explored the positive effects of reducing carbohydrate intake can have in improving blood sugar control, also received the Inspiring Excellence Award and was nominated to be entered in the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge, a national competition which will be held in Washington, D.C. in October. Good luck with that. On the screen there, you will see the other students who earned second, third, and fourth honors in the state fair. Our students from Hillsman were unable to join us this evening due to their honors night celebration, but we do have several students from Clark Middle with us, so please make your way to the stage as I call your name. Alex Call, Omar Garib, Ezra Irwin, Mason Malik, and Ian McCracken. And if you guys just scooch together just a little bit, we'll take a group picture. Congratulations, and thank you for joining us tonight. Next tonight, we'd like to welcome back some frequent visitors to these recognitions. We are pleased to once again be joined by members of the Clark Middle School Science, Energy, and Adventure Team, SEAT, which for the 5th year in a row has been recognized at the state and national levels for their work in leading and promoting energy and resource conservation education efforts across Athens, Clark County. Just this week, this team of students, led by their teachers, Audrey Hughes and Javon Winston, learned that they have been named Georgia School of the Year and National Junior Level School of the Year by the National Energy Education Development Project. Let's give them a big round of applause. At this time, I'd like to invite any members of this team to the stage. We'd like to get a photo of you, and I'll continue to talk about you a little bit. The team also earned the Exemplary School Energy Efficiency Project recognition for their 24-25 project, Conservation and Compassion, Saving Resources and Helping Others. The team has been invited to participate in the 45th Annual NEED Youth Energy Conference and Awards in Washington, D.C. this summer. Please join me in congratulating Clark Middle SEAT team. I'll also editorialize. You have an amazing t-shirt designer, so thank you very much. You may be seated. Congratulations. Next tonight, we are pleased to be joined by several of the more than 24 of our students who recently placed in the State FFA Agri-Science Fair, where more than 24 students placed in their categories. We'd like to ask those in attendance to go ahead and make their way to the stage now. You'll see all these students' names on the next couple of slides, but we did want to highlight Cedar Shoals High School Grayson Oliver, who placed first in Agri-Science Research Proficiency, Plant Systems, and Omnio Mansauer, also of Cedar Shoals, who placed first in the Animal Systems category. In addition, please. There we go. In addition to the 24 Cedar Shoals students who placed in the top 6 of their category, we had Josie Schumann of Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School, placed second in her Environmental and Natural Resources Division, while Noah Gomez Perez of Coyle Middle placed 4th in his Animal Systems Division. I'd also like to mention that Michael Kent, Michael, where are you? Amelia Hembre and Ashley Nash received their state FFA degree, as did several students from Clark Central. So congratulations. Please join me in giving these students and their teachers a huge round of applause. Thank you all. You may be seated. Thank you very much, and congratulations. And finally tonight, we have a couple of more student organizations who are frequent flyers when it comes to these recognitions. We are pleased to be joined by staff members of the Odyssey Media Group and Iliad Literary Art Magazine at Clark Central High School and Blueprints Magazine at Cedar Shoals High School. and we recognize their organization for more than 100 combined staff and individual awards and recognitions they have received at the state, regional, and national levels this year alone. First, I'd like to invite any members of Odyssey to come to the stage. You'll see some highlights of awards won this year by the Odyssey. I did want to draw your attention to their Pacemaker Award for the Odyssey website, the National Scholastic Press Association's highest honor. Their online and print product also won the top award at the Southern Interscholastic Press Association Awards. Odyssey staff members also swept the top individual journalist awards from the Georgia Scholastic Press Association, Clark Central Senior, and Odyssey Editor-in-Chief Wyatt Meyer, who you all have met before, was named Georgia Champion Journalist by GSPA and was one of 6 finalists for the National Journalist of the Year Award given by the Journalism Education Association. Senior Jane Rips was Georgia Champion Journalist runner-up, and Junior Peter Ashley was named Georgia Junior Champion Journalist. Congratulations to you both and to your colleagues. Thank you. The Iliad also received several awards for its 2024 edition. Prometheus, including the Pacemaker Award from NSPA, known as the Pulitzer Prize of High School Journalism, Best of the South from SEPA, and the Gold Crown Award from the Columbia Scholastic Press Association. And finally, we look at just some of the awards won by our Blueprint students. This included 8 All-Georgia Awards, 6 superior ratings, and 1 excellent rating from the Georgia Scholastic Press Association and the SEPA Best of South honors for the Blueprints website. In addition, the Quiz Bowl team of Riley Pippin, Lily Cohen, Tamello Johnson, and Eli Stone won their 3rd consecutive SEPA championship. Congratulations to these students for all their hard work, and thank you to Odyssey and Iliad advisor David Ragsdale, who I believe is with us tonight. Mr. Ragsdale, would you stand up? And Blueprint advisor Mark Ginsberg, and I don't know if he's here tonight. You may not have been able to make it, for all the work they do with these students. Thank you very much. Now, believe it or not, this concludes our recognitions for May, and I will say what I said last May and the May before, and I'll say it next May, hopefully. If you don't think we have a lot to be proud of and a lot of hope in our future, you are not paying attention, because these kids and their teachers are doing amazing things every day, as are thousands of others. So thank you for supporting them, and thank you to all of you who came out and support them in each of your individual ways. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. What a wonderful end of the school year event. And we are so proud of you all, and you are definitely free to go if you don't want to sit for the board meeting. All right. Let me go ahead and get that ready. Okay, now we are on to item 4, and that is our 5. That is our public comment. And before we get started with public comment, let me just go ahead and remind everyone of policy BCBI, that each individual speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and at this point, remarks must be concluded. No speaker will indulge in personal attacks, and all comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. To protect the privacy of students, speakers shall refrain from identifying specific students by name. No individual or group shall be retaliated against in any manner for speaking during public participation. Personal concerns may be addressed in writing to the superintendent and the president of the Board of Education, and written copies of comments may be provided to the board. At a board meeting, board members will not respond to questions or comments from the public. The district may respond to public input as needed or appropriately within 10 working days. And lastly, the use of obscene, profane, vulgar, physically threatening, or abusive remarks will not be allowed. Loud and boisterous conduct or comments by speakers or members of the audience are also not allowed. And we have, I believe, 3 speakers signed up for tonight. Let me just see if I can find yes. And our first up is Sandoval. I'm not getting a first name, so just Sandoval? Pastor Sandoval? Is that who's up there? Yes, yes.
Good afternoon. Superintendent Dr. Hooker, President Dr. Anderson, come before you once more again and the renaming of the City Show baseball field after Coach James Holston. I understand that it got dropped off the agenda, and I know you guys got a lot on your plate, and we are okay with that, but hopefully we can get it back on the agenda for June. That is my prayer and hope. And like I said, I know you guys got a lot on your plate and stuff, so hopefully within the next month we can get it back on the agenda. And I thank you all for your diligent working on it, and hopefully we'll be a little bit more happier next month. And I'll conclude with this. As long as the tide that binds us together stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. God bless you. And appreciate you, Dr. Hooker, for your service. Amen.
Thank you. Next up, we have Pittman. I also don't have a first name, just Pittman. Anthony Pittman? Oh, he's not. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for letting us know. And last, we have Karina Gallagher.
Good evening. Good evening. So I'm going to read something that my son put together. Oh, my goodness. Okay. And so this is from Caleb. I wanted to take a moment and respectfully share concern about the requirement for all seniors to ride the bus to graduation ceremony on May 22nd. I understand the importance of organization and keeping things running smoothly. This policy creates challenges for students like me who have family and friends graduating from Clark Central earlier the same day, or who are coordinating with out-of-town guests hoping to celebrate the important milestone together. For many of us, taking photos and spending a few meaningful moments with family before graduation is just as much as part of the day as walking across the stage. I'm asking if the district would be willing to allow students who are able to arrive at the Classic Center on time and check in with staff, just like we would if we came on the bus, to do so. I completely respect the structure that has been planned, but hope there's room for flexibility that reflects the real life needs of our families. Thank you for hearing me out. And for all the work that you put towards making this the graduation a special event. Thank you.
Do we want another 3 minutes for our little speaker? No? No? Okay. All right, thank you so much. That concludes our public comment. If you do not wish to stay for the board meeting, you're also welcome to leave. Okay, now we are going to move to item 6, to adopt the agenda as presented. I
make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, that motion is made by Mr. Denson and seconded by Dr. Yeager. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please raise your hand high, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. All right, we are now at our item 7, superintendent comments.
Madam Chair, as we head towards the end of the school year, we have many special recognition days. National Principals Day was May 1st. National School Lunch Hero was May 2nd. National PE and Sports Week, May 1st through the 7th. This week is National Music Week, May 5th through the 9th. National Teachers Appreciation, May 5th through the 9th. National Children's Book Week, May 5th through the 11th. National School Nurse Day and School Receptionist Day, May 7th. School Communicators Day, May 9th. May is the National Speech Language Hearing Month. The CCSD SLP team works to prevent, access, and treat a wide variety of speech, language, and social communication disorders. And it is also Mental Health Awareness Month, which helps us acknowledge that mental health is for everyone. Our school counseling department has shared a pin with each board member to commemorate this month. Please wear this pin throughout May to support our students, staff, and families. Of course, Sunday is Mother's Day, so I would like to say a special thank you to all of our board members, faculty, and staff members who are mothers, and thank the mothers of our students for entrusting us with their children. Next Tuesday, we will honor our CCSD retirees at a dinner in their honor. That will be May 13th. Finally, we look forward to closing out the school year strong with our high school graduations. Classic City High School will be May 21st here at 6 p.m. Clark Central High School graduation will be May 22nd at 2 p.m. Cedar Shoals will be May 22nd at 6 p.m. You can visit our website for more details and information about our graduations. And that concludes my comments for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hooker. Now we are on to item number 8. That is our facilities updates. Mr. Gilbreth or company? Mr. Bailey and Mr. Gilbreth.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and cabinet. We got a busy month coming up, busy summer. I don't know if we're going to have to distinguish between a month and the summer. But this is our summer job schedule through operations. There's painting specifically from my division, painting and pressure washing in there. There's all kinds of goodies from some of the other divisions that are listed under the operations umbrella. The Clean Water Initiative, just kind of an update here. That's been a topic for a while about clean water. We're very fortunate to live in this community where the water is probably above standard of the rest of the state. And some of the things that we've been doing is we've been shopping for a better way to deliver water, bottle fill stations out in the world and water coolers. Mr. Gilbreth and the SPLOST team have been putting these things in for the last several years. I haven't really counted how many years, but he's been putting them in. But we reached out to LK Zern, and they had a beta test for us. And they want us to kind of run this equipment of theirs, water filling stations, and see how they work, see how they interact with us. And part of the beta test is for us to walk into a building, and all of their water coolers are connected on our internet, which picks up on our phones. So we can go in there and take a look just in a minute, so long as we're on the local network there, and see what all of our water coolers are doing. The EV bus charging station, we will be supporting that. I see that they're getting the equipment, I believe, next week. Is that correct, Dr. Askew? The final part and piece. So there's a lot going on over at Plant Services / Operations. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. And Mr. Gilbreth, I assume you're going to provide the SPLOST update.
Yes, tonight our update is via pictures. So we'll start with, Ms. Palmer, thank you, Cedar Shoals. So here's the shop, our picture of the auto shop expansion. The second picture, if you can scroll up a little bit, Lisa, They're finishing up on the inside. Equipment is being installed, and we hope to have them back in the shop before school's out in the next couple of weeks. The ROTC building, structural steel is up, and that structure will be, getting enclosed and under a roof here shortly. And then the Cedar Shoals indoor batting facility slab has been poured. The structural steel is here for the building, and that'll be set as well. We're doing some interior renovations in the old gym. These are the old locker rooms, so we've gone in, replaced the floor with the new epoxy floor. And the last couple of photos are the graphics package that we're rolling out in the finished spaces. So this is some of the graphics in the ag building, also in the cafeteria and the main building. Any questions on Cedar? Our next one is Gaines Elementary. That will be our next major project coming up. You can see we've got an aerial photo that kind of shows the existing campus, and then the next slide actually shows where we're going to be expanding at the school. The areas highlighted in red are the additional classroom spaces that will be constructed at the school. Some of these other slides or renderings that the architect had done with the interior designer to kind of work on color palettes. We've presented those to the local school committee for their approval, and we're proceeding with that. Hope to have that bid this summer, and I'll hopefully bring a price to you in August, so we can start in September. And the last series of photos is the district services warehouse expansion. The slab has been poured, so you can see there to the left, it's basically doubling the size of the warehouse space. The structural steel for the building is here. We're waiting for the concrete to come up to the proper curing strength, and then we can start setting the steel. We've also expanded or added an additional dock leveler. I think it's the last slide, Ms. Palmer, if you show that. So this was a request by the people in the warehouse that they're unable, when a truck comes in that's too high, they only have one dock leveler, so we're kind of doubling their capacity for that. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Gilbreth. Are there questions? Okay. All right, thank you. We are now ready to move to item 10, and that is the items A through I to approve through a consent agenda. I need a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Yeager and seconded by Ms. Davis. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, raise your hand high and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Okay. All 9. And now that moves us down to 11, approval of the FY26 tentative budget and millage rate. And that is Mr. Greiner.
Good evening. Excuse me, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. All right, so again, I'm going to emphasize the word tentative. The final approval would be in June, so we're just setting a tentative budget, tentative millage rate tonight, so we can move forward with the budget hearings as well as the millage rate hearings. So a couple goals tonight. One is to review updates to the general fund budget since our conversation back on April 22nd. Again, to approve the tentative general fund budget and the millage rate, and then to review next steps. So, strategic plan, again, we always keep that in focus. Our goals: thriving students, optimized talent, connected culture. So I want to talk a little bit about the tax digest. We still don't have final numbers. I think the hang up in talking to Deputy Tax Commissioner Amanda Stevens and also our tax assessor, Mr. Dunnigan, I think the biggest issue now is ACC Gov. It's working through, they decided not to opt out of House Bill 581, so it's trying to get the exemptions right on their side. So the software company is still working through those. I can't speak for 100% certainty that our numbers will not change. The last set of numbers I received was on April 25th, so we're going to go off those numbers tonight. I know the Board of Tax Assessors met this afternoon at 4 o'clock, so I'm hoping, I reached out to Mr. Dunnigan earlier this week. He said he would give me an update. hopefully in the next few days, it may be, again, I know he's doing all he can right now. Again, they met, I know the original goal was to try to get assessment notices out next Thursday, but I don't know what happened in that meeting this afternoon, so I will follow up with him and try to figure out where we're at. So the numbers I did receive, we originally used a 6.5% increase. Those numbers project out to more like an 8.27% increase. So that's good. I wish I could stand here with 100% certainty and say that's our number. Normally I would have the 5-year tax digest history as well as the rollback rate. We just don't have that yet. Again, hopefully next week or the week after, and we'll talk through the next steps if we do have that and if we don't have that. Again, we have to have those pieces to be able to do the final, the hearings and the advertisements. So right now, with factoring in that additional increase that we did not have originally, we have projected revenues over expenditures of about a little over $2.2 million. So we do have some recommendations on that. Again, this is coming from Cabinet, with Dr. Hooker's blessing. So we wanted to bring forth those recommendations, again, open to discussion. So we will discuss all that this evening. So our proposal recommendations with that $2.2 million increase is to increase our security force. This is something that's Dr. Hooker has spoken about several times. As current events at other districts, unfortunate events that have happened right down the road, it's always in focus. So our proposal would be to add 3 certified officers at an estimated cost of $300,000. That's salaries and benefits. We'll talk about vehicles. We did get the additional safety grant money, so the plan would be to use that safety grant money that Governor Kemp gave us as an amendment to this year's budget and go ahead and, if the budget passes with those positions in it, we would use that money for the vehicle piece of that. So the $300,000 is strictly salary and benefits. 14 non-certified officers or unarmed. Those would be at an estimated cost of about $840,000. You may say, why is that cost less? They, as not being supervisor positions, would not qualify for TRS, which is about 22% of the salary. So those would be, and those 14 non-certified positions would put 1 officer at each elementary school. Right now, we have 2 officers that cover our elementary schools, kind of rotate around on a floating basis. The 3 certified officers would be more, Chief Reed could use those at his discretion. They wouldn't necessarily be assigned to a specific school. And once we get to the question part, I know Chief Reed, Dr. Hooker can definitely answer those questions related to that part of the proposal. The next thing would be, we took deferred maintenance out of the budget. I think y'all have heard. We still have, various, we kind of got the HVAC system, what we feel like under control. We do have roofing projects that we probably need to address at some of our schools, Winterville being the first that y'all have already approved. So we added back in deferred maintenance of $1 million. So we'll get to the bottom line. That pretty much uses up the $2.2 million. Our recommendation is to leave the millage rate at 18.8 mils. I will walk through some different scenarios that if, looking at potentially reducing what the impact would be on our total revenues. And we have reasons why we recommend leaving the millage rate, and we'll go through those in a minute as well. So the only thing I added to the fund balance slide, I'm not going to go through each slide again. I'll hit the highlights. The 2026 budget as currently presented, we have about 2.6 months of reserves. Recommended is 3 to 6 months. For us to be at that level, we'd have to be at about $63.6 million. We're currently, you'll see in a minute, we're going to be right around that $55 million mark. So I will say 3 months of payroll for the district, for the general fund is about $54 million. So if you look at just payroll, salary, benefits, we're right there at the 3-month window. It's the operating expenses that are generating that difference. Again, the state of Georgia at the end of last fiscal year had about 4.7 months of reserves. So items to consider, and this is, again, federal funding. President Trump has issued a proposed budget. There are different pieces of that federal funding that, again, it's just proposed. Congress would have to go through it. As you look at potential Title I and special education, I don't believe have information we got from GSSA, the School Superintendent Association. Those programs look to remain intact. There are some proposed cuts to other title programs, Title II, Title III, Title IV. as well as, there has been some mention with the Head Start, Early Head Start program as well. So keeping in mind, Early Head Start is totally federally funded at this point. So if any of that funding was reduced or potentially went away, then that would have to be the general fund if we decided, it would have to make up that difference. Right now, they are totally federally funded. Again, that's all proposed. I think it's that piece, again, of the uncertainty. We just don't know. Promise School Scholarship Fund, I know Mr. Evans, Mr. Denson asked these questions at the last budget discussion. The base cost for a student, and the way QBE is calculated, that's a high school student, it's $3,200 per FTE. So for instance, if we lost 300 students and they were at the base cost, that's roughly about $1 million. I know that I can't give you an exact number, I'm just throwing that. And the 300 is totally an estimate. 150 would be about 500,000. So just to kind of give you an impact there. And again, that's at the base cost. So if we have a student who's earning additional funding, we would lose additional revenue there as well. And again, I think, Dr. Hooker, there's 3 more application windows, I believe, for the Promise School Scholarship. The first one's already passed, but I think there's 3 more. So. Also, consideration, we definitely, the recommendations from the Sustainability Committee, a grant writer and a sustainability coordinator, we don't want to forget those as well. So we also had those as items to consider as well. Millage rate reduction, so just play with some different numbers. We're currently 18.8. If we reduce down to 18.65, it'd be about a $1.1 million reduction based on the tax digest information we have right now. 18.6 is 1.5, and then the 18.2 that Mr. Denson mentioned at the last budget discussion would be about 4.6 million reduction in revenues. I think our concern with the millage rate, any reduction would be these uncertain items that we have that are listed above. The federal funding, the Promise School Scholarship, potential for increased prices. Again, just don't know numbers there. So anytime you have that uncertainty going forward, when you lower the millage rate, it's always, if you have to eventually propose raising it, it's just a hard process, in my opinion. Most districts I've seen that lower it have really never raised it again, I think. I know Barrow lowered theirs several mills, and I think now I think last year they may have had to tick back up a little bit. So it's always that going back and forth trying to figure that out. So that's just, but I wanted to give some different scenarios with that just so we could see as we try to consider. Again, our goal this year, Dr. Hooker and myself and Cabinet, is to have a balanced budget. I feel like with the uncertain times, it's just crucial that we try to balance the budget this year. I know that means we may have roughly 22% in fund balance, but again, those uncertain items, I think it calls for a little bit larger percentage in fund balance. Last year, we kind of went with 20. If we had the same landscape as last year and didn't have those uncertain items, I would probably say 20. I just feel like 22 is probably where we're at with a balanced budget. So, again, that's just our recommendation. Property tax assumptions, the only thing I changed there was the estimated growth. And again, that number could change in the next few days, so we'll see. So hopefully it will not. I really feel like it's not going to go down a whole lot. I don't think definitely won't go up anymore. I just, I think, let me go through these. There's really no changes to these slides from the last presentation, so we won't. I'd rather spend time on the discussion piece. So this is where we're at with the recommendations we had, which was the additional security officers as well as the deferred maintenance. We'd have about 67,000 excess revenues over expenditures and about 21.6% as a percentage on fund balance. So our timeline, as Dr. Anderson mentioned, this is somewhat set in stone. The only thing that would change it is if we don't get a tax digest. We would need a tax digest probably by like May 20th so we can run the ads. So if for some reason Mr. Dunnigan reaches out and we just can't get a tax digest by then, we'd have to redo the hearing dates. I will definitely keep y'all posted on that. I'm hoping next week we'll have numbers that are final. Normally what I do is get a final number, and that allows me to do the tax digest 5-year history as well as the rollback rate. So, all right. So now questions. I'm sure there will hopefully be some.
Thank you, Mr. Greiner. Does anyone have would anyone like to start with questions? Dr. Yeager, I was about to say, this is strange.
Yes, ma'am.
So the items for consideration include the recommendations of the Sustainability Committee, how does that manifest itself, or what does that look like?
I think it would go back to, so our goal again is to have a balanced budget. Of course, ultimately, y'all can approve it balanced, not unbalanced. Last year, we took about 6.6 million projected out of reserves. It would affect the recommendations we have. So if we wanted to, right now we have about a $67,000 difference, revenues over expenditures. So if we wanted to, those positions roughly, this is my rough math, because I don't even know where they would be on a salary. Guessing, I'd say between 200 and 250,000. I think I answered Mr. Denson's question, and I think that's what I put in the question document was 200 to 250. But again, I'm trying to remember exactly. I think I was just kind of saying between 100 to 150, somewhere in there. Probably more like 100 is what I would think per position, with salary and benefits. So if we put that 200 back in, if the goal again is to have a balanced budget, then we would have to say maybe reduce deferred maintenance down to 750,000, something along those lines. So it's more like if we want a balanced budget, we would just have to reduce some of the recommendations to get those items for consideration. But again, it's totally open to discussion. This is what we can. Deferred maintenance, I do feel like we're going to need down the road. I kind of hated taking it out the first time, but it just wasn't working with the tax numbers we had.
And board members, I do want to share with you what we tried to concentrate on as a cabinet. We talked about safety. We had spoken about this after the incident at Appalachia about having security in each one of our buildings. So we put that in place. As Mr. Griner spoke about with the Promise School Scholarship Fund, there are 4 times that families get to apply. April 15th was the deadline. June, they get to apply again in September and in December. So we can be impacted 4 times throughout the year that students withdraw and take those funds with us. That could have an impact as well. So we have to take that into consideration.
I think this is one of the, I've done this now for 12 years, probably one of the hardest budget periods because there's so, normally you have a few unknowns. I think there's some really large unknowns right now. So I know as a board, it's a hard decision as well as us trying to figure out how do we manage those unknown uncertainty going forward. I mean, there's always going to be uncertainty. I just think with our federal funding and the Promise School Scholarship, that's pretty huge to the district in both of those. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Dr. Yeager asked about the sustainability recommendations. Mr. Denson, your question?
Yeah, so my question is, my comments are around, so right now, I believe we have, according to the other document that was on here, currently we have 10 officers at our schools.
You want us to pull that up? Because we prepared that document just so, because
that was a little
personally, if I were, looking at that recommendation, I'd want to know what we currently had. So that's why I'd asked Ms. Palmer, because she had met with Chief Reed and Dr. Hooker today to kind of pull those numbers together. So we have a PDF that I just thought that would be helpful for y'all to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Honest,
Yeah.
Sometimes I get confused because we had the agreement with ACC and then we have unarmed and armed officers. So to me, it was helpful as well.
Yeah, so bringing our list of total of officers would be 27. And so, as I'm just seeing and
Mr. Dennis, I'm sorry, this doesn't include the proposed positions, so that would add to this list.
This does not include the proposed
No,
positions.
I'm sorry, this is just our current list right here, just so you can see what we currently have.
I got you. Okay, so currently we have 27, and the proposal is for an additional 17.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So that'd be to 44.
Yeah, the biggest gap we have right now is, and I think that's why we focused, and I'll let Dr. Hooker or Chief Reed chime in as well, is the elementary school piece, because we just don't have a dedicated person at our elementary schools. So.
Okay, yeah. And I agree that we need to be taking some steps for the safety. I do see that as a very large increase over in a single year, go from 27 to 44, with a pretty hefty cost. So I mean, if we're, depending on how we're looking at the things, I definitely want us to also be, you know, focusing on some of those other positions that we were talking about, definitely with the sustainability recommendations and, yeah, just that very large immediate increase definitely gives me a little bit of pause, especially with the almost $1.2 million cost to it. Yeah, just want to bring that up.
Thank you.
Okay. Other thoughts? Ms. Davis?
I'm concerned about the growing number of law enforcement. I think safety is important, but I think it's also important to create an atmosphere where the children don't rely on the police presence to feel safe. So that's important to me. My other concern is around, or it's a question really, we have the recommendation from the Sustainability Committee on the positions that need to be held, and I want to know if operations or administration has looked at that to see what does that displace. If we're going to hire 2 people to deal with sustainability, what happens in those departments that have responsibility for providing those services? We're not creating any new opportunities here. It's fuel replacement, how we heat, our heating and costs, our AC costs. And so again, that's what the recommendations, just for I vaguely remember, come from. So what happens to the people that are managing our current use of the materials and the choices that we've made to fund these initiatives? I'm not sure if we're just creating another silo that, again, really has broad implications for every single thing that we do. I literally spent time thinking about the sustainability as more of a, it's like our purpose is to educate children. I think our purpose should also be to contribute to a sustainable environment for operating, period. And so I don't see that as a person. I see that as a policy, as a methodology, as a way we do business. And so I'm hoping that we're not going to, again, create a situation where that decisions rest on that person. The people that are doing the work that sustainability is recommending should be the people who are implementing the best way to do the work, in my opinion.
And I would like to, I think we mentioned this at the last meeting, you know, Dr. Scott may want to weigh in on this as well, because within her department, I think with the grant writer position, we were talking about an administration, amongst the administration, to possibly consolidate or restructure it a little bit. If, for the grant writer position that was suggested. But I don't know if you want to add anything on that, Dr. Scott.
Well, we were discussing the fact that we previously had a grant writer. James Barlament was the grant writer for our school district. He is now shifted to do more of our data and research piece, but within his department is there capacity to support some grant writing within that department with his current staff.
So then that grant writer would extend beyond just sustainability. They would be looking at other areas that can use more grants. What are we talking about here? He did all of it, right? Or was he the only grant writer that we had?
He was the only grant writer for the district. With that being said, then if we would want a grant writer that would do more than just write grants related to sustainability, but looking at how can we search for other grants that would support initiatives going on in the district. But again, the question just becomes if there's that capacity within his department to do that.
Thank you. That's much more clarifying.
Dr. Ye, let me see if there were others that had any questions before I circle back to you. If there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet, okay, then I'll circle back to Dr. Yeager.
I was just going to, from my perspective, being involved with that committee, I think the sense, Ms. Davis, was that this person would support already ongoing efforts by the operations department. They've been trying to do a lot of really great stuff. They've already done so much, and that this person would bring some additional skills and some additional support, hopefully more money, and also be able to be the one who connects to the city and to the university to get expertise shared across the community. So it would be a support person not somebody who's going to tell them what to do by any sense. It would be someone who would help bring ideas and approaches to the table with expertise. So it would be a support, not a separate silo. But that's just my impression.
All right, thanks for that clarification, Dr. Yeager. Are there other questions, other thoughts on the proposed budget? Our callers? Okay. All right. Okay. Ms. Davis, did you want us to?
I would like to know, since the Sustainability Committee turned this report over to us, has administration looked at this recommendation to see how it could be implemented other than with, again, adding additional resources? And so I heard what you said about Mr. Barlowman, and I agree, he's been a working machine. But I keep running into multiple people writing grants for things in the district too. So maybe there's a tiered approach to grant writing, and did he only go after the big things, and then like schools are writing grants? There are lots of people writing grants in the district from what I've seen. So I'm just trying to understand, how do we get that efficiency so that we can make sure that all of the departments engaged in this sustainability effort with fidelity, because it really is a mindset shift in terms of how we do business and how we build buildings and how we staff buildings and what we use in those materials. And I don't think that's a one-person job, and I think that that job is going to evolve as things are proved in terms of what works best or whatever. And so I just want to better understand how that's going to be actually operationalized.
And Ms. Davidson, I think we have to look at the skill set of all of our departments and how people can be used for the sustainability. As you take John Gilbert, who is able to collaborate with the city or UGA when it comes to sustainability aspect, Mr. Gilbert, and to work on that. And I'll just be totally honest with you as a board. My uncertainty about this, we do not know how all these uncertainties are going to affect us, and we make these decisions this year, and next year we come back and have to rift. I continue to say that because what we do not know, I'll just be honest with you, our letter that we sent to GOSA, already 140 people have applied. That's just the first round. Okay, we have 3 more rounds to go. So, June, we'll get another number as to how many people have applied to that. We're still uncertain as to how the immigration impact is going to have on our school system. And that could affect our enrollment come the fall. So there are things that we have to think about just beyond this upcoming year, but looking at the budget, that's all I stressed to Mr. Griner and to the cabinet. We have to be very thrifty in this budget because we could pay for it later.
Okay. All right. Mr. Denson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a question I forgot to ask for Mr. Griner earlier. So with the recommendation of using the additional tax digest that we found for $1 million to the deferred maintenance, do we know what is the current deferred maintenance fund balance right now?
Yes, sir. So the deferred maintenance balance, once we finish the roof at Winterville, is going to be pretty close to zero for this year. The big things that this year with the roof at Winterville, the HVAC controls that were approved several months ago, as well as the sports lighting at Cedar and Clark Central. So that pretty much took the $2 million. We came into the year with a little bit more than, I think we had like $500,000 left over from last year. So we pretty much have went through that. We do have a separate account from the sale of the 2 properties here on the school property here at Prince Avenue, the house out front, and then the other building. That has a little over $1 million in it. So, I mean, ultimately the board can make a decision to use it as well. I think Mr. Gilbert and I had that conversation. I don't think there's any tie. Originally that money was going to be set aside to figure out the Ellard house. So I think, there is still that concern. What do we do with it? So, but yeah, so we have that $1 million pretty much is what we have to work with starting the year. So.
But also, we have to take into consideration, Dr. Askew can speak to that we've had our roofs, you want to speak to, and it was over 2,500-page document concerning all the roofs of the 22 schools. If you'll speak to that, please, sir.
That's correct. We had a company come in and do a comprehensive assessment of all of our roofs in the district. It resulted in about a 2,200, 2,100 page report. We do have some significant work to do. The two buildings that are most pressing are Gaines, which John is going to get that one with the renovation. And then, of course, Holston is the other one. That roof is in pretty bad shape, and so we need to think about doing it. If we were to do a complete restoration on that roof, that's going to be pretty close to $1 million right there. We've also got it priced out. That's a part of what's in the report. So that right there would be a significant amount of, if we just go $1 million in the deferred maintenance. There's another route we could go, and without getting too deep in the weeds with it. So there's 3 types of repairs. So they could come in and they could do spot repairs on every single roof across the district. Those spot repairs only hit the leaks that they see. So as your roofs continue to age, think of them like tires on a car. You know, as they start to wear down, okay, I've got, 330 seconds of tread left on the tire. The tire isn't flat today, but as soon as I run over a big rock or, I pass over a nail, it's going to be flat. So those roofs, even though we would do the spot repairs, they would continue to weather and age, and they're at a point where they're in that 3 to 5 year window where they need to be replaced. You're going to continue to sprout new leaks. So that's a consideration. We can patch the holes, but the entire dam hasn't been addressed. The other way we could address it is we could come in and we could restore all the roofs, and we would get a 30-year warranty on those roofs. And of course, we wouldn't do them all at once. But each individual roof, instead of going in and doing spot repairs, they would redo the entire roof and resurface the entire roof. That puts us in a position where we've got a long-lasting warranty that's probably going to outlive the life of some of our buildings, 30, 40 years into the future. And that would give us a good solid repair that if anything did come up in the future, if it sprouted another leak, then it's covered. And then there's the roof replacement. John and I both like replacement, but that's the most expensive option. It's the Mercedes-Benz. So we got to think about that, too, in terms of how our funding looks, projects that we already have in SPLOST. So a lot to consider there. Dr. Hooker has a report. Chris has seen it. I've got it. Just in terms of the approach that we want to take in fixing our roofs, but we do need to do something because they all are at a point where they're in that 3 to 5 year window and they're just going to continue to age and sprout leaks.
It'd be great if that report could be shared with the board, just that we could be preemptively aware of these kind of things. And then my last comment here is, and I do understand the concerns of so many unknowns and therefore the concern about adding positions when we have those unknowns. But this proposal for using the increased tax digest proposes that we create 17 new positions, but all when it comes to police officers. So, and I understand the need and urgency to have safety there, but we also need to be thinking about other ways that we are trying to protect the safety and well-being of our students. And part of that has to do with environmental impacts. And again, just the ability for our schools to be sustainable and to be able to put up with threats when it comes to weather, natural disasters, all these other things. And so I think shifting all of these funds to 17 police officers, but then saying that we can't take the step of creating these 2 sustainability positions, which would end up paying for themselves eventually. I think that we can do both, and we might just have to make some compromises, maybe not do 17 additional officers. Maybe we do, 12 or 13, while we still have the funding to do these other ones. So something for us to think about.
Mr. Denson, I would also like to share with you the safety grant that the governor has given to each school can help offset the cost for providing these officers. We're talking about certified or post-certified 3 officers, unarmed uniformed officers would be placed in our elementary schools. And I can tell you, our job is about the safety of our students. I'm concerned, as I've stated before, we have 2 schools on the outskirts, Cleveland Road and J.J. Harris. We need to have individuals there. But we can talk through this as we go through the budget, what's more important, and how can we balance and find some unity or a common ground to making this happen.
All right. Oh, Ms. Bagby?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, Mr. Grainer. Does the Board of Education still own West Broad Street School? And if not, have we sold it into who?
We still, I mean, going back to West Broad, we still own that, correct? Yep. So,
We have
I
not
know we
sold it.
hadn't sold it, so not knowing the full, but yeah, we still own that.
No, in our board document, several board members have asked that we do something with it. No, that property has not been sold or even put out to be sold.
Okay. Are there other questions? Dr. Gant?
Just a quick follow-up for clarification. So the officers that'll be added, and that you mentioned, it'll be offset by the grant, Dr. Hooker. That grant, it's a one-time grant, or do we anticipate having to like absorb that cost maybe in the general fund year after that?
That's a great question. So last year we received almost $1 million in safety grant. So the governor extended that into this year. We've kind of got that it's already allocated in the budget it covers different things, like we replaced some fire alarm systems and some other stuff this year with that. The governor back in January added money to that, which is what the video surveillance that we approved, y'all did approve because it was on the consent agenda, approved tonight, is going to come from that additional money. So next year we'll have the same $1 million. That is allocated in the general fund budget right now. The goal, I think the governor had with that, Dr. Gant, to answer your question, we were hoping they'd eventually just make that a part of QBE as a categorical grant. That did not happen this year. I know the governor really wants that added where it's an annual basis. We would get that roughly $1 million. It's roughly $47,000 per school was how that's calculated. But there's no guarantee, to answer your question, it could go away next year depending on the legislative. And then, you know, Governor Kemp has got, I guess, 1-2 more years before he terms out. So, you know, what the next governor decides to do, I would think safety again will be a focus, but we just can't ever say, yeah. So to answer your question, we do have it only 1 year. There's no guarantee we would have it. We do have it for FY26, but FY27 we're not sure.
All right. Does that satisfy everyone's sort of inquiries? Okay. I just want to add real quick, just from my perspective, is there a way before our next tentative budget? Well, we're talking about approval this time, right?
It's, yeah.
Of the tentative budget.
Yeah, that's why I want to emphasize the word tentative. So whatever we approve tonight, like last year, we were still adjusting at the budget hearings. So that option is there. The biggest thing out of tonight is the tentative budget and the tentative millage rate, so we can run the ads. And then you can still, the millage rate is a little bit more dicey but I mean, there is some room to adjust it once but the ads run. The budget is definitely, like last year, I think we adjusted at each budget hearing based on, you know, our feedback we got from the entire board.
Okay.
So the main goal tonight is we can adopt a tentative budget as we presented. Y'all can still change. We'll still take the comments that were made tonight under consideration as well with Dr. Hooker and Cabinet. We can still go back and adjust that.
Okay.
The millage rate it just gets a little more dicier because you're advertising a certain millage rate. I think there are certain parameters where you can do a lower. Actually, now that I think about it, if you don't go all the way back to the rollback, you have to do hearings anyhow, so you can always adjust the millage rate now that I think about it, because as long as if you go back to the rollback, you don't have to have any hearings. Regardless, you have to have hearings. So.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if there's a level playing field that we could try to find by our next, I mean, if we move forward and approve the tentative budget just so we can continue with our calendar the way that it's set, Is there a world where the district can review the school district's capacity to do grant writing specifically for sustainability within Mr. Barlaman's office? Is there a world where that conversation can be had by the district in a more, I guess, intentional way, and then brought back to the board with some kind of certainty or uncertainty of whether or not that office can support that work? Because, I mean, I'm seeing several board members kind of continuing to push for that, and I am worried that we'll get to the approval of the budget and we won't have the votes if we don't have that conversation more concretely. Is that okay with everyone to just kind of go that route for now? And then, Mr. Greiner, if you could maybe provide us with more concrete figures of what it would look like to add a grant writer for sustainability, so that when we have, again, the next conversation, we have a little bit more certainty to work with numbers and then capacity.
Yeah, that will be no problem at all. I mean, I'll try. Again, I don't think I'm trying to think of districts in Georgia. There may be some that have like that position. If not, we'll try to get a feel for what the market looks like.
Okay.
And for the grant writer, I know there's districts, larger districts that have grant writers that we can definitely.
Yeah.
And then, you know, by our next hearing, which would be in June, I would hope we'll definitely have tax digest numbers so we can tweak those a little bit too. Again, I don't anticipate them going any higher. I mean, they come down a little bit, and that could change the whole perspective as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's not unusual for school systems to outsource grant writers for positions like that, to outsource them, and the grant writer get a percentage of what they are able to bring into the school system.
Yeah, that is true. I know most nonprofits, I know we're in a different realm than nonprofits, but I know that is kind of the traditional model in nonprofits, is smaller nonprofits outsource that all the time. And, you know, there's, again, and I'll try to do some research on what districts do have grant writers in-house or outsourced as well.
And that might be a good compromise in the interim, because we honestly don't even know if we are going to be able to apply for any federal grants for sustainability work until, you know, 2030 at this point. So it might be a decent compromise, but it's a conversation that we can have if we have more information presented to us to be able to kind of make those decisions more soundly.
I will add this. We have, you know, some of the fuel tax credits that we've had in the past, we did use a consultant, I think, through transportation for some of those as well. I mean, like Dr. Hooker mentioned, they take a 20 to 25% cut of whatever money we get. But I will say those are real intensive with the IRS and the paperwork, and then there's typically an audit from the IRS, so they handle all that for us. So actually, I think we just went through that with one of the fuel rebates we had gotten several years ago, but it's kind of nice when you can just hand that off and they did all the legwork on that for us.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I just think we just need a little bit more in front of us to be able to really make some decisions on what we really do want to request. So thank you for that, team. And then I think for now, I would really like for us to table this conversation and just pick it back up next at our next
I was just going to
meeting.
mention that DeKalb and Decatur both have sustainable people in their district.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
definitely
you.
reach out to Mr. Schieneman in DeKalb. That'll be an easy conversation. So, thank you for that, Dr. Yeager.
Okay. All right. So, we are still now at the approval point of the tentative budget as presented, with an understanding that these conversations can still cause some amendments to the final budget. But we need to decide if we're going to approve it so that we can stay on our budget timeline. Yes.
And we can continue to put questions inside of the questions document or the budget document, right?
Either one, preferably the budget one, but
Okay.
Ms. Palmer looks at both of them, and I do as well. As soon as she sees a question in either one, she lets me know. So, yeah, either one.
Okay. Maybe for efficiency, the budget document. And that probably will help all of us see what everybody's kind of asking for. Okay, so if we are going to
I
make a
move
motion?
that we approve the budget as, temporarily approve the budget as written.
The tentative budget?
Last question.
Yeah,
before
it's
we
just
do that.
just approving the tentative FY26 general fund budget.
Okay.
And then I think you could do that, and then Mr. Pruitt, I'll defer, I think on the budget and the millage rate, they can do that as one motion, or do those need to be separate? The tentative general fund budget. Y'all can just do that as one motion.
So those can happen in concert. Does Dr. Yogurt then need to?
Would you like me to restate my motion?
Yes, please.
Sorry.
I move that we approve the fiscal year 26 tentative budget and tentative millage rate.
Okay, I need a second before we can open the floor for questions.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager, seconded by Mr. Evans. Now the floor, if anyone does have any last questions, I think Ms. Davis.
That would be this light, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So my question is, in that proposal that was presented to the board and the district, right, were the people impacted by this decision a part of this committee or a part of the review or making the recommendation, or is the recommendation coming from the committee, the ad hoc committee that was there? Because I'd have a lot more security about this if the people who are impacted by it were a part of the conversation. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does to me.
I think there were, and I know Dr. Yeager, you could probably, I know there were members of the district that were part of that committee, correct? So, members of the,
I think we started out with lots of members from the district, and then there was some discussion about whether that was appropriate, and so they ended up coming as sort of guests of the committee about halfway through, but they were absolutely there for all the conversations. I mean, they're...
Yeah, I think that the committee membership is in that document, and it lists what their, how they represented the district. There were students, and so I don't know if that's your question, Ms. Davis. I'm trying to help answer that question. I don't know if that was if that helps answer your question.
I'm very much process-driven, so that this question is about, if we bring a recommendation to the board and administration, does the administration then evaluate the recommendation and respond? Because that would help me understand, if we are all going in the same direction on this.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
That's
So
all.
your question is, has the district had an opportunity to absorb that information and then have a response to it? Okay. Dr. Herker?
Many members of our cabinet have read through the sustainability aspect, and we are looking into how we can incorporate the recommendations over a 3 to 5 year period. Cabinet members, those of you who've read through it, I know Dr. Moore, you've read through it. Dr. Garrett, you sat in on some of the meetings. I know Mr. Gilbert is not a member of cabinet, but he sat in on many of your meetings. Dr. Donna Elder sat in on many of your meetings. And Dr. Scott, I think you had an opportunity to review the document as well. So your question is?
If you all have like a response to it of some type,
We can get a response to you, Ms. Palmer. I need a timeline we can get together. Our next cabinet meeting is the 12th. But if it's the 12th, I'm thinking in my head, that's next Monday.
And I could be making that up. Maybe that's not what Ms. Davis is asking for. I might be completely misinterpreting what you were asking for. So if I'm like getting off course.
I simply want to know if the people that are impacted by this decision to hire 2 people to come in and do sustainability have at least understood what this impact is on their departments, on the things that they are responsible for. And because I just want to know, is it necessary to hire 2 people to implement something that should be a part of our normal operations if we were operating efficiently and effectively, right? We would be looking for those new things that are going to give us a different path forward. And so, yeah, that's all I want to know. And if the district evaluated the recommendations and found that there are opportunities for us to do this within our current domain.
Okay, so I think that question was addressed when we asked if the district could assess your capacity, your own capacity to write these grants yourselves, or if you do find a need for a grant writer, and if you could bring that to us next month for a more nuanced conversation. I think that's where that comes in, just asking for more.
And so I'm hearing the focus on a grant writer. I'm saying that even in the daily operations of the district, as we go through doing the things that we normally do, have we implemented sustainability measures in our thinking in terms of how we operate?
Okay.
That's different to me than just a grant writer. I'm not looking for somebody to write grants, because this would just be another thing that they would do in addition to writing grants for other things, I would think. There's a level of high priority general, again, so if we are on the same page, we will be fine, but I'm not hearing that and I'm not seeing that, so maybe it's just me not able to comprehend.
Okay, I think maybe we should just table this conversation and
That's fine.
we can have it next month when we've got a little bit more information in front of us to talk about it more. I think right now we're just kind of beating a dead horse. Okay.
Could I just give clarification on the committee members and the CCSD staff that was on there?
It's in the document, Mr. Denson. I'm just hoping
I'm not
that
sure if
we
I
can-
guess not everybody's aware or read, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Just every subcommittee had CCSD staff in it that wrote the recommendations. So there was eight total staff members that were on there. And also, of course, talking about impact, 8 also CCSD students, SPLOST community oversight committee members. The largest number of people, the largest audience, and that was CCSD staff members that wrote this. Yeah.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to ask that we go ahead and vote.
Ms. Hensley wanted to ask a question.
Okay. If it's about sustainability,
Because she's not at peace.
Okay,
what happened?
I'm sorry?
Heidi, is that right? It's okay. I'm going to pass.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor and a second to approve the tentative budget. And again, this does not mean we cannot have more sustainability conversations in the next meeting. It just means I think we've kind of worn ourselves out with that conversation. All right, are we ready to vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Gant?
Just clarification, so we're approving the tentative budget with the assumption that we'll get additional information, and then we have the date, we already have the dates that will approve the final budget, okay?
Yeah,
All
that
right,
date
and-
was in the presentation.
Okay, but we're not meeting, Karen, we're not meeting again before we do the millage rate hearings, right? I know it was 3 of them, I just can't remember where they are in relation to our
Nope.
board meeting.
They're happening the week before are 2 of them, and then the day before is our last one, and then we have our meeting.
The board meeting, okay.
Yeah, there's, Ms. Palmer's pulling it back up, but, so June 1st, actually, excuse me, June 2nd, we run the ad on June 1st, that's a Sunday. I don't think y'all want to, so June 2nd is a Monday, June 3rd is a Tuesday, and then June the 11th is a Wednesday, and then the board meeting on the 12th.
Okay.
And I think we looked at trying to, unfortunately, the Department of Revenue has a 14-day window you have to do everything, so it's almost impossible to hit these. So we try to do Monday, Tuesday. So we have a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday thrown in there. It was just hard to come up with different, it's just the 14-day window is so tight, it's hard to work around that.
Okay. All right. Did that help with clarity? Okay. All right. All in favor of approving the tentative budget and proposed millage rate, please raise your hand high and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Were there any opposed? All ayes? Okay. Okay. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much, Mr. Griner. We'll see you next month.
Thank y'all, appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
And if there are some other clarifying questions that you have before we come to the next budget conversation, don't forget that you can call them up, you can put it in the questions document. There's so many ways we can ask for more information so that we are ready to have more concrete conversations next month. So feel free to utilize those methods. Okay, we are now at individual items for vote. Item A is the CCSD Code of Student Conduct for school year 26. I need a motion before conversation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Denson and seconded by Dr. Yeager. The floor is open if anyone has any questions or thoughts. Dr. Gant, you have your light on. Do you have a question or is just, okay. Okay, so we're ready for a vote. All in favor of approving the CCSD Code of Conduct for school year 26, please raise your hand high and say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? Okay, so we've got 6-3. Was it Ms. Henson?
Ms. Henson?
Okay.
Aye, yes, and Ms. Hall? Aye.
Oh, both were aye. Oh,
They're both
okay.
aye.
I think it was just a delay, so it's 7-2. Yes. Okay, and now we're at approval of policy BCBI, public participation in board meetings.
I move that we approve the changes to BCBI.
Need a second.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager and seconded by Mr. Denson. All in favor of approval of policy BCBI?
Did we want to?
Uh-oh, discussion. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sorry.
I just want to emphasize that the changes are going to make it possible for people to come up until the board meeting starts to sign up for public comment, and I think that's a good change.
All right, thank you for those statements. All right, all in favor of approving policy BCBI, raise your hand high and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, and then approval of policy IG, guidance and counseling program. Did we have an opportunity to amend the language on that paragraph?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, okay. Okay, so everybody's feeling good about it? Okay. All right, I need a motion.
I move that we approve. Oh, you go ahead. Making up for last month. Approve the changes to policy IG.
Second.
All right, motion made by Dr. Yeager and seconded by Dr. Gant. All in favor of approving policy IG, guidance and counseling program, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we're moving to items in 13, personnel action. So we've got a contract list, our personnel list, and then our appointment of interim superintendent and the approval of the contract for the 25-26 school year. We can vote for them. I think we have to vote for them separately, don't we? Okay. All right, A, contract list.
Make a motion that we accept the contract list.
Second?
Okay, motion made by Mr. Evans and seconded by Ms. Davis. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Got you.
unanimous. All right, personnel.
Move that we accept the personnel list as presented.
Okay. All right, motion made by Ms. Davis and seconded by Mr. Denson. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimous. And then item C, appointment of interim superintendent and approval of the contract for the next school year.
Make a motion that we that we approve the appointment of the interim superintendent and approve of the contract for the 25-26 school year.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Nicole,
Who went
she
first? Okay.
seconded.
All right. That motion was made by Mr. Evans and seconded by Ms. Hull. Ms. Davis. I don't know who went first, I'm sorry. Ms. Davis.
I was first, but I don't mind Nicole seconding. I don't care.
I know, it really doesn't
Second.
matter, it's just for record keeping. Okay, all, discussion, no, we can't. All in favor of approving the contract and the approval of the interim superintendent, please raise your hand high and say aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Scott. Welcome aboard. You're going to be up here, next to me, next to all of us. All right, now we are at our information items and board community reports. To begin, Mr. Henson, would you like to do early Head Start Policy Council meeting minutes?
Again, the report that you see before you is from a couple months ago, but we did hold a special called meeting in which the Policy Council did approve the proposal that we voted on earlier tonight, so thank you all for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Denson. Community Oversight Committee report? Ms. Davis?
I think I missed that last meeting. I had a amount of surgery, so I apologize for that, but the SPLOST report is already here and included.
Okay, thank you. Athens Community Career Academy, Mr. Evans?
So the ACCA will be having their final board meeting this coming Tuesday for the year. They're doing lots of really cool and interesting things. The students over there are thriving. They're really looking forward to a bigger class. They have a lot of students that have enrolled already, and if you are still interested, you can still enroll. There's still time for you to go and look at the pathways and talk with the Career Academy people. Dr. Moore, I may need your help with this because I'm having an issue with the date. They're having their awards ceremony here on the 15th? Yep, on the 15th here. So they call them the Academy Awards, which I think is kind of clever. So if you can come out and support the students, that would be great. All right, thank you. That's the report, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Mr. Evans. Now we are at the Athens Area Community Foundation. Mr. Denson? I can never remember who, no. Oh, it's Miss Hensley. She's left the building. Okay, and now we've got Envision Athens, and that's Mr. Denson.
Yes, ma'am. And as I mentioned last time, there was we did have a special called meeting this past month on just ensuring that we had the funding to continue for this coming year. And happy to say that the funding did come through, it looks like. Right now, and Mr. Grinder, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the school district is budgeted to continue the same funding from Envision Athens as last year, correct? I think at
Yes, sir, that is correct.
11?
We have 11,000.
Yeah, 11,000, that's what I thought. So it looks like, we'll be able to continue the activities, and we will be discussing the ways that Envision Athens could better support the school district, and Executive Director Sally Shepard is very much interested in that. So if y'all have ideas, please pass them along to me. And it's also been discussed for her to come and present to the entire board on what they're doing and some of the ideas for the next coming year. So.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this in multiple meetings, having a presentation from Envision Athens, and then just kind of gave up on it, so.
Yeah, so I think some of that was because of the budget uncertainty, kind of all of a sudden threw off priorities, but since we're back on track, I think they want to do that, so.
That would be lovely. You could have her reach out to Ms. Palmer or myself to get on whatever agenda that she'd like to get on.
Okay, will do.
Or Mr. Evans. All right, thank you, guys. We are at adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.